Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my FXmovies.20 channel? Thank you so much. My name is Logan and I am 19 years old. I am endeavoring to navigate life. I reside with my father, Thomas, an architect who is perpetually occupied with his work and projects. I lost my mother at a young age, so for an extended period it was solely my father and me. This dynamic changed a few years ago when he remarried. Her name is Amelia, and she is markedly different from the archetypal stepmother I envisioned. I see her as youthful and intelligent, resembling more of a friend than a maternal figure. However, recent developments have introduced complexity into our relationship. Allow me to recount the day that altered everything. Please subscribe to my channel to receive more captivating true narratives like this one, and ensure you watch this video until the conclusion, as this story promises to be exceptionally intriguing. It commenced like any other tranquil afternoon. My father was occupied with work, and Amelia was out attending to errands, leaving me home alone. I am accustomed to solitude and do not mind it at this point. I spent the afternoon in my room, idly relaxing and perusing my phone. The residence was very tranquil, devoid of any sound. I had recently exited the shower, still moist, and was reclining on my bed engrossed in my phone. The silence was profound, excessively so. The house appeared silent, nearly disquietingly so. I dismissed the sensation yet could not disregard it. At that moment, I perceived a gentle rap on my door. I did not anticipate anyone's arrival. My heart momentarily halted. Initially, I instinctively reached for my shirt, then I paused. Who is at the door? Before I could move, the door creaked open, revealing Amelia in the doorway. Her gaze was fixed on mine in an unprecedented manner. She was casually attired in a light sweater and jeans, her dark hair cascading loosely around her shoulders. She appeared uncertain, as if anticipating something. I was utterly taken aback. "Sorry," she said softly, her voice gentle yet imbued with an attention I had not previously recognized. "I didn't mean to interrupt." I immediately sprang up, attempting to don my shirt, but Amelia's expression compelled me to halt. She was neither angry nor upset. She was simply observing me. Her eyes remained fixed on me, and it seemed as though everything transformed in that instant. "Amelia," I faltered, my heart racing. I was not anticipating anyone. She remained silent initially, entering the room gradually as if the dynamics between us had altered. She advanced another step toward me, and I became immobilized. My pulse throbbed in my chest. I felt vulnerable both physically and emotionally. My mind raced with thoughts of whether to apologize or instruct her to depart. However, before I could act, she spoke again. "You should have locked the door," her voice gentle yet imbued with an underlying intensity. An inexplicable force seemed to draw us together, making it difficult for me to breathe. She stood so near that I could sense the warmth of her body, which was overwhelming. I desired to speak but was unable to do so before I fully comprehended the moment. My hand reached for hers, trembling slightly. She did not withdraw. Her gaze remained fixed on me as if granting permission. It felt as though she was anticipating my initiation. I advanced, my body seemingly acting autonomously. Her gaze was fixed on mine as I extended my hand to caress her face. My fingers brushed over her delicate skin. The bond between us was irrefutable. The strain was overwhelming as I leaned in to kiss her. The sound of footsteps in the hallway interrupted the moment. Amelia swiftly retreated, her cheeks red. "We cannot," she muttered. "This is inappropriate." I remained immobilized, my heart racing. She was correct, and we both acknowledged it. However, I could not dismiss the fact that our dynamic had shifted, and I was uncertain if I could feign ignorance regarding the past. Before I could articulate my thoughts, she glanced at the door and then returned her gaze to me. "We will discuss this later," she stated swiftly before exiting the room, her footsteps diminishing down the corridor. I stood in awe, unable to fully comprehend the recent events. A part of me felt glad, while another half wanted to pursue her to ascertain the implications. I resumed my position on the side of my bed, my thoughts in turmoil. Everything felt altered. The next few days passed slowly, like I was stuck in some kind of fog. I couldn't stop thinking about Amelia. What had happened wasn't just a brief moment, it was something more. The way her eyes held mine, the way she seemed to breathe faster when we were close, it all felt too real to ignore. But the worst part was that I couldn't talk to anyone about it. My friends wouldn't understand, and my dad certainly wouldn't. Amelia was still my stepmom. We both knew it was wrong, but the tension between us was impossible to escape. I tried to distance myself, telling myself it was just a moment of weakness, something we would both move past. But every time I saw her, I couldn't ignore the way her gaze lingered just a second too long. It was like she was waiting for something, but I wasn't sure what. One evening after dinner, my dad was working late. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through the channels when Amelia walked into the room. She was wearing a loose sweater and leggings, her hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She looked different, more distant, but also somehow more attractive. "Hey," she said, sitting down beside me on the couch. "Mind if I join you?" My heart raced, but I tried to stay calm. "No, of course not," I replied, my voice giving away my nervousness. She sat beside me, her shoulder grazing mine. I could sense the warmth of her body, and I had to restrain myself from recalling that moment in my room. We remained silent for a while. However, the atmosphere between us was laden with unexpressed sentiments. I sensed her presence more acutely than I could concentrate on the television. And then she talked softly about the previous day. I tensed, uncertain if I was prepared for this discussion. "Amelia," I stated, endeavoring to maintain a calm tone. "I am uncertain about what transpired. I am uncertain as to the reason for her interruption." Her hand grazed mine. The contact was electrifying, like a spark in the atmosphere. She remained close, her fingers delicately following the contours of my hand. "I understand it is intricate," she murmured, scarcely perceptible, "but I cannot cease contemplating it about you, Logan." My heart raced and my ears rang. I had never previously heard her express anything of that nature. It seemed as though time had ceased, isolating only the two of us. I gazed at her, and for the first time, I recognized the vulnerability in her eyes. She experienced the same internal turmoil as I did, perhaps to a greater extent. Yet there was an additional element, an intense longing, an insatiable want that could not be overlooked. I stated, my voice trembling, that I was uncertain about the appropriate course of action. I was uncertain about the nature of this, yet I was unable to cease contemplating you as well. She inclined towards me, her lips nearly grazing my ear. "We can no longer feign ignorance regarding this situation," she whispered. "Can we?" I was uncertain how to respond. I desired to withdraw and assert that it was inappropriate, yet the reality was that I did not wish to. I did not want to repudiate my feelings. Before I could articulate anything, she closed the distance between us, kissing me gently. First, it was the softest, most tentative kiss I had ever experienced. I froze, my entire body immobilized as the world seemed to dissolve. While I reciprocated her kiss, my hands moved to her waist, drawing her closer. The kiss intensified, the tension between us palpable in the air. Her lips were warm and soft, evoking an indescribable longing to be nearer to her, to surrender to the moment. However, she abruptly withdrew, her eyes wide with alarm. "We can't do this, Logan," she murmured, that it was incorrect. I couldn't think of anything to say. A portion of me recognized her correctness, yet another portion remained indifferent. All I understood was my inability to cease desiring her. "Amelia," I spoke softly, expressing my indifference. "I simply require your presence." She regarded me, her expression softening, then a moment later, she averted her eyes, regret evident on her countenance. "I cannot," she uttered, her voice quivering. "I cannot do this to your father, to you." I comprehended her predicament, yet it did not alleviate my anger. My desire for her was intense, yet the consequences of our circumstances loomed large. Crossing that boundary was unbearable. She swiftly rose, running a hand through her hair in exasperation. "We must cease," she stated emphatically. "This must not recur." In an instant, she vanished, leaving me in the silent living room. My pulse raced and my head whirled from the recent events. The silence was stifling. I remained motionless, attempting to comprehend everything that had transpired. A portion of me desired to pursue Amelia for a conversation, although I saw it was an unwise decision. I was unable to cease contemplating that kiss, the sensation of her in my embrace, the warmth of her body on my own. I felt an addiction to the sensation, yet I could not dismiss the encroaching guilt. I had always revered my father and placed my trust in him, and suddenly I found myself on the verge of betraying him in the most egregious manner. I attempted to divert my attention, but it proved futile. Whenever I encountered Amelia, I experienced the same attraction, the same bond. The bond transcended the physical realm and felt profound, akin to an inescapable force. Every aspect of my being was irresistibly attracted to her, despite my awareness of its impropriety. Several days later, I found myself in the kitchen preparing breakfast. The house was tranquil, the sole sound being the sizzle of bacon in the pan. I had not yet encountered Amelia, but I was aware that she would shortly awaken. My heart surged at the mere contemplation of her. I endeavored to dispel these thoughts, yet they persisted. The recollection of our kiss and the emotions evoked by her proximity were overpowering. As I completed the arrangement of the plates on the table, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to discover Amelia in the doorway, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, clad casually in a blouse and jeans. To me, however, she might as well have been adorned in a gown of flames. "Good morning," she uttered, her voice gentle yet imbued with an underlying tension that mirrored my internal state. "Good morning," I responded, attempting to maintain composure despite the rapid beating of my heart. She advanced closer, her gaze momentarily flitting to the food on the table before returning to me. A moment of silence ensued, a palpable pause before she spoke once more. "You have been evading me," she uttered, her tone scarcely above a whisper. It was not a question, but rather an accusation. I froze, wondering if it had been that apparent. Was I truly evading her? "I am not avoiding you," I stammered, yet deep down I recognized the truth. It was difficult to face her after everything that had happened, but the truth was that I desperately wanted to re-establish a connection with her. She advanced a step closer, and I inhaled her fragrance, a delicate blend of jasmine, which disoriented me. "You know this is not right," she muttered, her voice almost inaudible. "We cannot continue this, Logan." I wished to convey that I could not suppress my emotions, that I no longer desired to resist, yet I remained immobilized. My heart conflicted between righteousness and my deepest longing. "I am uncertain about how to cease," I said, my voice scarcely above a whisper. The words escaped before I could restrain them. Amelia's demeanor softened, yet a sorrowful glint appeared in her eyes, one I had not previously observed. She extended her hand, lightly grazing my arm, and the contact evoked a surge of emotion within me. "You must cease," she implored softly, her gaze probing mine. "This situation transcends us, it concerns your father as well. It pertains to everything we have constructed. Do you genuinely wish to obliterate that?" Her statement struck me forcefully, akin to a blow to the abdomen. For the first time, I comprehended the gravity of the situation. My father, the one who had consistently supported me and labored diligently for our benefit, how could I betray him in this manner? Nevertheless, the attraction I experienced for Amelia persisted, compelling me to accept. I sensed the internal conflict escalating between my emotions and my moral compass. I expressed my uncertainty, my tone laced with bitterness. "I am uncertain how to cease these feelings for you." Amelia exhaled audibly, her hand descending to her side. "It is necessary for your benefit, for mine, and for your father's." Her statement served as a jarring awakening to the truth of my actions. I could not continue pursuing something that was never destined to occur. I could not continue jeopardizing everything for a transient moment of desire. "I do not wish to cause harm to anyone," I stated, my voice trembling with emotion. "I am uncertain about my next course of action." "No action is required on your part," Amelia responded gently. "We must relinquish it." Her remarks alleviated the tension that had permeated the atmosphere, and I finally comprehended that I was on the brink of making a decision that could dismantle everything. I could not do that to my father, to her, or to myself. With a sad heart, I nodded and whispered that we must cease. However, as I turned to face her, the expression in her eyes indicated that we both understood this was not concluded. The emotions had not vanished, and the temptation would persist, poised for our misstep. In that moment, I realized that if we did not halt now, we would be unable to rectify the chaos we were on the verge of creating, and I was unprepared to endure that level of regret.